Hello and welcome to a Marketing Sherpa webinar. Today we're going to talk about email messaging and how to improve your emails. First of all, I want to thank Lyris for sponsoring this webinar. They allow us to provide all this information to you for free, so thank you, Lyris. I also noticed we have a lot of people online today. I noticed Agatha checking in from Nairobi. It's 8 o'clock there. Thank you for checking in, Agatha, and thank you for your commitment to email marketing. I hope everyone on the line has the same commitment to email marketing. Today, what we're going to do is, while I said that this is free because of Lyris, you know, in reality, John and I know no webinar is free. You're paying us with an hour of your time. We really appreciate that. For the busy marketer, that's very valuable. And we hope today you're going to walk away with at least one, maybe more, ideas to improve your email marketing. Let me introduce myself. I am Daniel Burstein. I'm the Director of Editorial Content here at MECLabs. We're broadcasting live from Jacksonville Beach, Florida, and I oversee all of our newsletters and case studies and reporters and blogs that you're familiar with from Marketing Sherpa and Marketing Experiments. With me also is John Powell. He is the Senior Manager of Research and Strategy for MECLabs, and he does a different type of research. He comes alongside research partners, works directly with them, gets into their email, their analytics, their landing pages, and finds ways to improve conversion. And today he's going to share one of the tests he ran with one of those research partners, as well as how he got a lift and some of the principles he learned. Thanks for joining us, John.
Appreciate it, Dan. Thanks.
So now we only have 60 minutes and a ton of content, but I want to also tell you one more thing. To get the most value out of these webinars, you can use #SherpaWebinar. With #SherpaWebinar, you can ask us questions and you can share your own insights. You can also use the chat function on the left there in this ReadyTalk platform to ask us questions and share your insights. We've got a bunch of people on the line. We've got Will with me in the office, and John, and Amy, and all the way from Denver, we have Brianna from ReadyTalk. She'll help you if you have any issues at all with ReadyTalk. I'll tell you briefly, too, a little bit about what we do. I'm not going to talk about too much about us, because what you care about is information that's going to help you. But basically, we're out there doing research to find out what really works in digital marketing. And that's what you're going to see from us today. So we publish benchmark reports and handbooks to talk to different marketers and say, hey, what's effective for you right now in email marketing and B2B marketing? And we also, like I said with John, we actually get alongside marketers and work with them and get our hands dirty and get into their tests so we can learn that way as well. With that, to get us started, to help us get a better understanding, Will, can you launch this poll for us? We want to get an understanding of what you're testing right now in email. So which email elements do you test most often? You can simply reply to that poll right there on the screen. Is it the subject line, either the wording of the subject line or the length of the subject line? Is it the message itself? Are you testing the headline or the copy or something else in the message? Are you testing the layout and images? So less about the copy, but more about the visual look. So we know you might be testing multiple things, but please tell us what do you test most often? Is it the call to action? Is it the days of the week sent? What are you testing most often? So let me take a look now. A lot of the results are pouring in here, and I'm going to skip to the results, and I see, whoa, subject lines. You see that, John? Subject lines, overwhelming. I'm not that surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. We'll see in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, subject lines are, frankly, they're easier to test than most things. And we asked the same question to 2,734 marketers in our 2012 email marketing benchmark report, and they as well told us that subject lines were the top things they tested. That's great. That's something we're going to talk about today, the importance of subject lines, how you can write more effective subject lines, and the role they play in email marketing. And I believe my team's also, if you're on a #Sherpa webinar, they're going to tweet through a free excerpt from that 2012 email marketing benchmark report so you can get some value from those charts. But here's the next chart, John, I thought was a little more interesting. So let's take a look. On this next chart, we looked at not just what people were testing most frequently, but how effective it was. What was the effectiveness compared to how frequently they were testing it? So yeah, 72% of marketers are testing subject lines, but only 35% are telling us that it's very effective.
Right.
And when you look down a little lower, I think is where we can learn about some areas where we can test most often. So, for example, landing pages, only 32% of marketers are testing them, but 41% are saying it's very effective. So if you're not testing landing pages, that might be an opportunity for you.
Right, and what's more interesting, too, is while a lot of people are testing subject lines and only 35% are reporting them as effective, is that just because subject lines aren't an effective place to test, or is it because there's a better way to do it?
That's a great question, John. We're going to look into that today. I also want to point out target audiences. 30% are testing it. 42% find it very effective. And target audiences is so core to email. When you hear about email, you hear about relevance.
Right.
And nothing can make an email more relevant than getting into the right target audience. So if I send a message, it's a great message, but I'm sending it to the wrong person, it's not going to matter. So for example, Megadeth. They have a concert in town. You send me the best email for a Megadeth concert, it's not going to matter. I'm just not a Megadeth fan. But if you send me an email for a Pearl Jam concert, it could be the most poorly worded email. But if I find out Pearl Jam's in Jacksonville, I'm going to be there. So think about that, looking at your audience and how you can make your messages more relevant. So let's take it down from the big picture. So what we talked about there was research with almost 3,000 marketers. Let's take it down to a very specific experiment, a specific case study. And John, you're going to talk to us about this experiment that you ran.
Let me give everybody a little bit of background. So we had a research partner. They ran the largest physician-only social network, which actually offers its knowledge base to pharmaceutical companies. So think about it. You've got a social network. Only doctors can join this. They verify the fact that they are MDs. They also verify their specialties, their practices. And this is a place where MDs can share with each other the kind of things that would help each other as a peer group. And the same group of people are allowing the pharmaceutical companies, medical device companies to come in and actually conduct research real time with these physicians as they're engaging with each other. Our goal was to actually increase email click-through from a rental list to a landing page to the pharmaceutical audience to try, again, help them understand the kind of value they could get from the product. Our primary research question, which email will generate the highest click-through rate? And our approach was a multifactorial sequential year-to-year test. So the first thing I'd like to do is take a look at the email that we're trying to test against. Subject line, engage physicians through social media. And without actually reading line for line each of the email, you could see that a lot of the primary or attractive value is buried in the second paragraph in the top above the I path. We also see that an offer in the email is for a 30-minute demo, but the call to action is relatively high commitment. Get started. Well, what does that entail? Audience, I'd like to ask you, if you're using your chat feature, what other kind of problems might you see with this email or things that you might want to test with this email, taking a look at it?
Let's take a look at that email. What would you change in that email? You can use your chat feature on the left, or you can also use #SherpaWebinar. It could be the images, it could be the subject line, it could be the call to action. When you look at that, what do you see? So you want to...
Yeah, Tiana, we've got placement of call to action, move the call to action higher in the page, add an image. Don says does not offer much value. Hannah says less copy. Tim, move call to action above the fold. Rob needs some sort of visual force, alphanumeric graphics. Catherine says text heavy. We've gotten a lot of call to action above the fold. Call to action should be top left. I'm hearing a lot of rules, Dan.
Yeah, and I'm going to warn you, everyone who's on this Sherpa webinar, stay close to that keyboard because this is very participatory. At the end of this, you sent us some of your emails and you asked, what can you test to improve them? We're going to take as many as we can, and John's going to give you some advice and test advice based on those emails. We want to hear what the audience has to say as well. So talk about that. They're talking about rules, right?
They're talking about rules. Well, interestingly enough, we took a slightly different approach with the control and evaluating it, and we came up with a treatment. But the treatment isn't the kind of treatment that you might expect, especially with the kind of rules we talk about in email marketing. Here, all we did was we focused more about the value exchange that's occurring in the mind of the customer. So take a look at the value here. Look at this treatment subject headline, reach 120,000 physicians through social media. The value is clearly communicated in the headline in the first paragraph. We give you immediate access to the doctors because that's why you care. And also pay careful attention to this. In the call to action, we're talking about the value as a smaller commitment. See how it works. Keeping the customer in mind. So audience, I want you to take a look at these two pages side by side, and based on your experience, which one do you think would actually win in terms of performance and click-through rate? One for control, two for treatment. We see number 2, right? Treatment, 2, treatment, 2. Okay, we've got maybe because they think that it's going to win, that's why we're showing it. We've got a couple ones. We've got a couple of faithful. No, the first one's going to win. You guys are doing terrible. 1, 2, treatment. Well,
before you have all this confidence in John, I want to bring up a point. We were speaking together on Tuesday, and John was presenting a case study, and he got a 28% loss. So John doesn't win every time, because what we're trying to do with these tests is actually learn from them. So with that, John, tell us about the results.
Well, let's take a look. The two's got it.
They were right about you.
The treatment saw a 104% relative increase in click-through rate. And what you need to understand is that by actually focusing on the message of the email to reflect their value proposition, the things that really stood out and connected with the target audience that they were trying to reach, we were able to generate that lift. And today, what we want to do is we want to actually help you understand on all of the emails that we've tested, and I think over 1 billion emails tested, and all the different research that we've done, the common denominator tactics, things that you can pay close attention to, things that you can use to apply to your emails so that you can, again, realize the same kind of lifts and conversion that we have been. And the first thing that I would like to talk about is error number 1. We call it macro distortion. Now, I don't know about you, but even when I was in college and when they were teaching me all about marketing, I heard about the funnel. And I love the funnel. I mean, you used it when you poured oil into cars and things like that, and it seemed like a great analogy, right? And it simply states that, hey, if we just kind of stay out of the way, kind of shape their path, just plug the holes, they're just going to fall right into our carts. They're going to fall right into the call to action. They're going to fall right into the forms, right where we want them. All we have to do is just kind of stay out of their way, keep them moving in the right direction, and everything's going to work out. Well, in all the testing that we've done, we found that there's a problem with this. This assumes that they trust you. This assumes that they haven't been betrayed before by another company. This assumes that you aren't going to try and get them on something. And the funny thing is that when you take all of these things and you put them together, the exaggerated benefits, the empty promises, the artful disclaimers, what you've got is gravity. And that's what that big red arrow is. It's gravity. People aren't falling into your funnel. They're climbing up it. And what are they climbing against? Their own skepticism, the experiences of their friends, the cynicism that revolves around emails in general. I mean, think about the email. Email is a push marketing channel. You're interrupting their lives to try and get their attention. They didn't ask you to email you in most cases. Maybe they opted into a list, but they didn't actually send you an email hoping to get a response. You're hoping to get a response from them. So there's this natural gravity that exists. And when you're trying to attract a customer to do something based on the email that you're giving them, you're asking them to take action out of their day. You're asking them to interrupt their everyday cycle, and you're asking them to take multiple steps. I want you to pay really close attention to the arrows on the side. To the consumer, to the prospect that you're trying to reach, it's not one step and done. It's multiple steps. Is this email worth opening? Okay. Is this email worth reading more than just 5 seconds? Okay. Is this email worth looking at any deeper? Is this email worth clicking on? Let's take another look.
Let me go back to that slide for just one moment, John, because I want to point something out. You're right, there's green arrows. I just want to point out people might not know what CVP and DVP are, and I want to point out CVP is the core value proposition. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later, and DVP is the derivative value proposition. We're going to be talking about that a little later. I also want to point out, at Never Miss Gift here on #Sherpa Webinar said she's completely rethinking the design of her beta email based on what you're saying. Hopefully she's completely rethinking the funnel too. Why don't you jump back in and tell us a little bit more about this task?
So let's talk about the ROI of the...
Yeah, Sue wanted to know, what was the ROI of this experiment that you showed us earlier?
It was interesting because we drove more traffic. The landing page that was used prior was actually the same exact landing page. So we actually were able to realize the same benefits moving throughout. So we didn't actually change the landing page, and we were able to achieve, I think, a significant decrease in the cost per lead, which is what we were trying to optimize because, when you rent a list, you pay a price. And when you pay a price, you hope to get a certain return or a certain response for the amount of money that you're spending. And in this case, because we drove significantly more people to the page and helped them understand the value, we were able to realize a significant reduction in the cost per lead and to help them really reach their goals for the quarter.
Excellent.
Does that help?
I think that's very helpful.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about the macro conversion process. So this is the way that we see it. We see that we're sending them an email, and we're seeing that we are sending them to a landing page, and hopefully that that they're going to make the click. But in the customer's mind, it's more than this. The subject line. Is it interesting enough to open? The headline. Is it what I expected to see when I opened it? First paragraph. Is it interesting? Do they have my attention? Is it worth reading anymore? Body. Is it relevant? Is it worth acting on? Call to action. Is it the commitment too high? Does it make sense for me to do right now? Is this something that would involve a lot of work? Okay, great. You got me to your landing page. But wait, we're not done. Is the landing page continuing the conversation with me? So the thing that I clicked on, is that continued within the headline, the subheadline, the first paragraph of the landing page? And then now you're asking me to do something else. What do I get in return for that? The customer thinks in micro steps. They're looking at a process like a conversation. They're trying to understand at every intersection, what is the value for me to continue? So let's take a closer look at the email that we had talked about earlier. The treatment subject line reached 120,000 physicians through social media. In their research, what was most important to these pharmaceutical companies was the amount of doctors that they are reaching. You could have a social media platform, it could be the coolest thing in the world, but if it only has 5,000 physicians represented across 10 specialties, then you're not going to get much out of it. But if you have 120,000 physicians ready there, and you're interested, okay, well, tell me a little bit more. Who are these 120,000 doctors? You take a look at the headline, yes. When I opened it up, that's what I see. I want to know more about it. Okay, well, tell me more about these doctors. Well, they're not just physicians, they're verified. They're represented across all 68 specialties. So if I've got a particular pharmaceutical that may be prescribed by a certain specialty, I might actually be able to learn more about it. Oh, and they spend 35,000 hours per month discussing the drugs and the medical products and the procedures that I'm interested in doing my research. All of a sudden, there's relevance. There's reason to continue. There's reason to understand more. Let's take a look at the body copy. Here are the different ways that you can use the service as part of your research that you're already doing traditionally. And then finally, take a look at the call to action, see how it works. I'm not asking you to sign up now. I'm simply inviting you to understand how it works, because nobody's ever done this before. In fact, if you look at the pharmaceutical industry, they're very conservative in the way they do research. So it's really important that they understand that this doesn't violate any kind of rules or regulations that they have to follow. Let's take a look at the landing page. Again, we're reinforcing that conversation, conduct and promote the products within the social media platform. First 2 inches, we're going to reinforce the kind of things that they can do and that they're used to doing. Surveys is something that they do conservatively and traditionally. So we're saying, hey, you can do the same type of stuff with this audience that's using this software right now. And then, we reinforce that in the body copy, and then the call to action, set up a one-on-one consultation and to see how it works. So as you can see, just going through a review, there are at least 10 micro decisions that must be made by the customer going through the process so that they can understand what they should expect upon completing that. And the same thing is true with your emails. You're not just sending them an email, you're starting the conversation. And the conversation happens in parts. Think about the party that you go to. If you don't strike up a subject that's interesting, are they going to continue to listen to you? Are they going to continue, or are they going to find something, oh, I got to go get it, I'm going to go talk to this person over there. It's very much like that. You've got to start the conversation. You've got to get their interest. You've got to keep them from going back to the punch bowl, and you've got to keep them engaged. The moment that relevance is lost, they're gone. Same thing in your emails, same thing with your landing pages. Now, Dan, I wanted to take a moment to see if we had any questions from the audience.
Yeah, we've got a great question here from Andre. He says, when we are talking about email, higher click-through rate is always best. How do you see click-through rate in the context of paid search? Is it still best to have higher click-through rates regardless of conversion rates?
For paid search especially,
for paid search.
You know, the funny thing about paid search is that you're paying for every click.
Hence pay per click.
So think about this for a moment. If you're paying for a click but you're not getting a return on it, is that necessarily a good thing? Well, that depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you're looking to achieve a return, or if you have a budget, then absolutely you're going to need to pay really close attention to that click-through rate to make sure it's paying off. However, if you're trying to get more clicks to drive people into content for other reasons, so let's just say that you've got ads or something else, or there's another objective associated with that, the ROI might result in something different. So, but it's critical in every case to look at what your objective is and how the click-through connects to that, and what the cost of that click amounts to in the end towards your objective. So I wouldn't just look at clicks. I would look at the entire conversion sequence, because if you can reduce the cost by half and still get the same amount of conversions, you've got that much more to spend on more qualified PPC traffic than regular traffic. Does that help?
Yeah, excellent point, John. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we want to help you out, Andre. When it comes to pay-per-click advertising for paid search, you want to optimize for ultimate profit, okay? You don't just want to get clicks in. So you want to make that ad as relevant as possible. Even when you're talking about content, so for example, free iPad, that would be bad, right? You get a lot of clicks, but they're probably not likely to convert. But if it's something more specific to their actual needs and to actually what you're presenting them on the other side of that click, that's going to be more valuable. We're going to talk about error number 2 now, conflated objectives. But first, I wanted to welcome Primoz all the way from Slovenia. So, Primoz, I won't ask you what time it is in Slovenia, but thanks for joining us. So error number 2, conflated objectives. Now, the word conflated objectives is the perfect word to explain conflated objectives because it's confusing, okay? When you think of conflation, I want you to think about those free mailers you get, those free coupon mailers you get in the mail. I know they're called Money Magazine or Mint Magazine or something like that. I get them, and you open a page, and there are so many different offers and calls to action screaming for your attention, sometimes in just one ad that you don't know what you're supposed to do, and you tend to just throw it down and not do anything. And I call that the tyranny of white space in those things, because I know, having worked in advertising in the print area before, some marketers hate white space. They feel like they're paying for that entire media space. They're going to fill every inch up with something. But when you do that, it's almost like either being in Times Square or walking down the Las Vegas Strip. So much is competing from your attention, you just don't know what to do. So John, why don't you tell us about conflated objectives in email?
So let's talk about conflated objectives here. So the idea is, I've seen it 100,000, or I think we're even going to see it today later, probably when we start looking at some emails that folks have submitted. And that's multiple calls to action perhaps in the same email, multiple things that you want somebody to do at the same time. So take a closer look here. Have you ever seen somebody try to get you to click right in the first 2 inches, but wait, maybe they'll scroll down. We better put another button there. Maybe we better put another button down there, and maybe those links or those buttons aren't for the same exact thing. So instead of having a conversation with a prospect or a customer, you're simply just throwing as many different opportunities to click and to act and to do something, because you don't trust that your conversation is going to have meaning enough to drive them to the next step. And what ends up happening is they end up more confused than when they had started if you had just given them one option and one conversation.
Yeah, John, so what you're showing here is the process of driving people from an email to a landing page. And I thought it was a perfect question from Kate that you can address right now. Kate asked, how important is it that the landing page look and feel like the email?
Now, this is a good question in that when we talk about look and feel, let's understand what you mean. Look and feel can mean many different things to many different people. Let me establish what it means to us. Look and feel in terms of colors, tone, that continuity is important. But the actual content is different. If your email looks like your landing page, you might be conflated. And why? Because people, you can't sell people on the first step. You can't imagine you're in the mall and then somebody's giving you a free sample and they try to sell you the entire product line that costs $500 before you even sampled it. You've got to get past step one. You've got to get into the store. You've got to begin to look a little bit deeper, step by step. But if you're trying to sell them everything the first time and then they click and then you're trying to sell them again, you might as well have talked yourself out of the sale. So when it comes to look and feel, from landing page to email, what matters most is simply continuity of the kind of the tone and the overall message that you're trying to get, but certainly not in terms of the actual message and the actual things that you're trying to do in each step. Does that help?
Yeah, because you also want people to realize when they're clicking from that email to the landing page that whatever you're promising in the email is going to be there on the landing page. So the worst thing is they click on an email, they get to the landing page, and now they're looking, wait a minute, you told me I'd get that free iPad or whatever I was here, and where is it, or what's that thing you promised me? So you do want to have that connection.
And actually there's an interesting question on Twitter. What about newsletters, which are informational and have many different links to click? Is that still error number 2? Well, think about what you're doing. Your goal is to attract them into a piece of content that appeals to them, okay? So you only need one link to that content. You only need just enough to get them to take that next step. But think about if you have a snippet of an article and you have 2 or 3 different links to that article in 2 or 3 different languages. No, the goal here is to help them quickly find an article of interest and then to get them into the full article by making that single click. So it's mostly about what the customer perceives, step by step, point by point, logical linear progression, as opposed to here are 3 different equally weighted things. And to the customer too, think about this. No content is equally weighted in their mind. So when they're looking at a newsletter, they're looking for the thing that matters most to them. And that's the key. And that's what I've discovered in all testing for especially content-based marketing is content is king, especially for new visitors. So in their mind, those aren't equally weighted. But imagine they get to that content, they identify a piece of content that is king in their mind, but you have 3 different objectives or links associated with that. What would they do?
Yeah, and something, that question is from @M-512 here on #SherpaWebinar on Twitter, and something we found, if I could call you that M-512 to speak personally for a moment, since we have newsletters too, is we don't have just a bunch of links. If we have several pieces of content, we'll have a little note from the editor, for me, for example, where we'll walk them through and say, hey, here's what you can find today, here's why it's of value for you, we have this and this and this. So they can see right up top what they can get, and then they can read the email for more information to see if they want to click through to those pieces.
Very good. All right, excellent. So let's take a look at an example. Back to our original case study, instances of conflation. Well, instance number 1. Take a look at the first paragraph. We're already trying to sell a 30-minute demo. We haven't even established that this is valuable to them. We haven't even connected with them on the thing that matters most to them, which is what? The doctors. To do the research, yet we're already trying to sell them a demo. But wait, we're not done. We've also, just in case you don't want the demo, we've got online tools. But again, we're talking about tools before we actually go into the reason why they might be interested in. And then finally, we ask the reader to get started when they might not be ready to start. What if they just want to learn more? What if they just want to understand how it works? And then think about that compared to the 30-minute demo, compared to the email us. Which one is it that you want me to do? Now take a look at this example. Here we've got a very linear conversation in the mind of the prospect that we're speaking to. First, we're guiding them. We're capturing their attention. 120,000 doctors is exactly what you want. Oh, and by the way, they're not just doctors. They're represented across all the specialties. And you guys have heard me say this before. And then we talk about the ways in which you can engage with these people that you so want to do. And then we give you an opportunity to fulfill your curiosity. That's it. Line by line, point by point, we lead you to the place where we want to take you. And all the while, it's valuable to you because we've made a case quickly in your mind that this is something that would be valuable for you to do. Now let's take a look at another example. Here in this email, little to no value in the headline in the first 2 inches. When it comes to your ERP system, are you better off in the cloud? What does that mean? And dear Julie, in today's challenging business climate, so again, get to the point. Help me understand why I should even bother to keep this email open or to not delete it. And then take a look. You've got 2 competing calls to actions. What's the difference between the paper and the free report? Why are they in 2 different places? Is the paper going to be more interesting? Is the free report going to be more interesting? What is it that you want me to do? Oh, now you want me to follow you too. So which of these 3 do you want me to do and why? And yet, none of the content truly speaks to it. And don't forget that download a free white paper link in the middle of the actual example. Now take one more last look at a positive example. Each section of this page requires the reader to go through a logical series of micro-conversions. So, dear subscriber, felt it was personally important to inform you regarding one of the most breakthroughs that we've had. Okay, what's the breakthrough? In this study, we found this. Oh, okay, so I might actually be able to use this and learn this. Perhaps this will help you. Okay, so how do I learn more? Just click here. One by one, point by point, moving forward, leading them to that call to action that we want them to take. So here's some symptoms that you might be conflated or your email might be conflated. If your email says exactly what's on the landing page, it should be a conversation, and the conversation happens in parts. You can't sell them everything at the beginning. Just like Dr. Flint says, you can't expect to marry a woman on the first date, let alone get a kiss for some people. Okay? I mean, it took, what did Dr. and me and my wife, it took me 6 months of micro-conversions just to move down here. And then after that, it took 12 months of micro-conversions just to get engaged, and then 6 more months of micro-conversions to get married. And even now, to stay married, I won't even get into that. So if you're trying to do all of that in one email, you're probably conflated. Second, if your email takes more than 30 seconds to read from the beginning to end, you've probably lost them at 5. Third, if your email looks and feels just like a web page, then you're losing, you're really, again, you're trying to do too much at once. All you need is the click. You need nothing more than the click because the click leads to the page. Also, if your email looks and feels like a magazine, now don't confuse this with imagery because imagery can sometimes, I've found in email testing, be effective for certain audiences, but how are you using the imagery? How is it put together? Is it part of a conversation, or is it just spaghetti against the wall? Here, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. Are they all equally weighted in the mind of the customer, or is there a sequence? Finally, if your email has more than one central call to action, you might be conflated.
And I want to make a good point. We have from C.A. Hidalgo here on #SherpaWebinar. He says, email is a poor conversation starter. Email with integrated outbound provides better conversion. Also want to make the point, obviously people, tend to if you're building your own list, they got to your list in a certain way. So hopefully, you're also engaging in some certain list building tactics. But once they do, even once they know you, as John made the point, you still have to, again, start that conversation over. So I think, John, you made a great point with your wife. Even though you're married, you have those micro conversions.
Absolutely.
Even though someone is a member of your list, if you have an opt-in list, if you're using inbound to get that opt-in list, you still have to start that conversation again. The challenge a lot of marketers face is we eat and sleep and live and breathe our email marketing campaigns and all of our campaigns, and then sometimes we think when the customer gets this campaign, oh, they'll be so excited to hear from us about the offer we have, but they're not. Their head is in a million different places, and so again, you have to, as with the marriage, you have to work on that relationship every day with your list, even if it's an opt-in list, and have a good conversation going with that email and start a conversation for whatever process you're working on that moment with email, which is whatever conversion you're going after right now.
Awesome. Is there any other questions, or should we go to number 3?
Yeah, let's go to number 3. What's error number 3?
So let's take a look at error number 3, assumed value. This is the story of my life. I assume that I bring so much value, but the truth is you got to work at it. Let's take a look at what this means for your emails and your landing pages. At each micro-conversion, now you have to understand this as part of the conflation, there is a journey, a value exchange that occurs in the mind of the customer or the prospect you're trying to reach. And for each micro-conversion, we have to increase the perceived value so that it outweighs the perceived cost of them continuing forward. So the perceived cost might be time. Well, you guys are giving us your time. There's a cost associated with that, so we have to continually ensure that the perceived value for your time outweighs that cost so that it's worth it to you. Every micro-conversion in the email to landing page conversion process is associated with the perceived value. That's why it starts with just the headline. That's why it starts then it goes to the body copy, and then it goes to the call to action. In every step of the process, you have to earn your way into action. You can't just assume that because you have an email, because you're launching a product, because you have a newsletter, that it's worth looking at. You have to earn it in the mind of the customer. And that brings up another question. Well, what if I have groups of customers that like me for different reasons? We have the value proposition spectrum that kind of answers this question. You're right. There are going to be prospect groups that like you for different reasons. That's why you pay close attention to your list. What's relevant to one list may not be relevant to another. And it's up to you to take a closer look at that list, to take a closer look at how that list was built, where they've come from, what they've experienced, what they haven't experienced, what they read, what they haven't read, all the information you can get to understand what of your products or what of the value you have is most important to them. So take a look at Prospect B, for example. Prospect B may value these aspects of us. So I'm only going to show them products 1 through 4, but for maybe Prospect B, I might show them only products 6 through 8 because they connect with that. And it doesn't just stop there. It's not just the products, but it's the process of helping them understand the product. We have to understand as marketers, we're not just marketers, we're teachers. We're trying to help customers and prospects understand the value that we can bring to their lives or our services can bring, and it's a step-by-step process. So taking a look at the original email, you look at this case of assumed value. We assume that they know who we are. We assume that they're just going to be interested because it's social media. I don't know if you guys have been on that bandwagon, but I have, and it didn't work. So, you can assume, but when we actually took a look at what they cared about, what customers actually say is most valuable to the company, we then said, well, wait a minute. How come 115 or the 120,000 members is way up here in the top in the gray? How come we're not mentioning the fact that there are 68 different specialties represented and that we can actually have the specialty that you're looking for? How come we don't mention those things? So what do? We make sure that every microconversion bleeds the thing that they're looking for. So for another great example, my wife is pregnant. And if you've ever had a pregnant wife or you are a pregnant wife or a pregnant woman, you probably understand the concept of food aversions. That's right. You could love Chick-fil-A or chicken or any kind of chicken and hate it the next day. It's possible. And it upsets me because I'm the kind of guy that wants to get a return on my investment on the grocery bill. And I'm going to buy all kinds of chicken because it's healthy and it's this, and she loves it, and all of a sudden she hates it. And it doesn't matter how well I cook it. It doesn't matter if I hire Wolfgang Puck to come in and cook the chicken. She won't eat it because it makes her sick. It's your job to figure out if you're serving chicken that they don't want to eat. You've got to find the thing that they want to eat. You've got to find the thing that they need or they want or they're interested in, and it's got to be represented in every microconversion of the process.
Well, first of all, John, congratulations. I didn't know that. I didn't think I'd learned about your wife being pregnant on MarketingSherpa webinar. But I'm learning something here today, too. Yeah, I love what you're saying, John, because when you break it down, what marketing is, we've got marketing automation platforms and ESPs and deliverability and all these technical challenges and all this planning and campaigns we have to do day in and day out. What it really comes down to is It's communication and value. That's the basics of what marketing is. What we're trying to do is communicate value to our customers. We want to do it in a believable way. We want to do it in a true way. But that's what it comes down to. And sometimes I worry that when we get into all this complexity of what marketing can offer, all different marketing technologies, again, the campaigns we're planning and all this, we overlook the fact that, hey, what value do we actually have to offer to our customers, and how can we communicate that value? So in just a moment, we're going to be doing some live optimizations. We're going to be looking at your pages, and John's going to take a look at some of the pages you submitted and give you some test ideas. Even if we don't get to your page, this will give you some great ideas for tests you can run on your pages. We're also going to ask more of your questions, but first, I would be remiss if I did not thank Lyris. They are the reason this webinar is free. If you're not familiar with Lyris, Lyris is our sponsor today, and they provide innovative digital marketing solutions to top brands around the world of every size, which should be a great asset to many of the marketers on this call. Their newest product, Lyris One, is the first cloud-based digital marketing solution to natively integrate deep behavioral analytics with the real-time processing of data. Lyris One's powerful marketing analytics, combined with the best practices we covered today, can enable you to maximize the relevancy and impact of every single customer interaction. For more information, please visit lyris1.com. You can see the link right there, and thank you again, Lyris. I also want to mention that if you are interested in email, coming up, Email Summit 2013 is approaching fast. I'm looking forward to it. We'll be in Vegas before you know it, it's the largest vendor-neutral, research-based email marketing event. We have a full slate of sessions to help you overcome your top email marketing challenges. Until the end of this month, you can still save $700 on your ticket. Just visit the link you see in front of you, MarketingSherpa.com/email summit to learn more about the event and save on your ticket today. I'm sure the team will also be tweeting that through #SherpaWebinar. I'm really excited because just a few weeks ago, I was emailing with Jay Baer. I'm a huge Jay Baer fan. He spoke at B2B Summit. He just brought down the house. He's going to be a keynote for Email Summit. He's great because, one, the guy's hilarious. So, that always gets me, right? I'm sitting there, and he's just cracking me up. But he also brings really actionable tips that you can just, leave Email Summit, or in that case it's B2B Summit, and actually put to use, which it's difficult to find in a keynote. When we're looking for keynotes, it's very difficult to find people that are not just going to inspire you, which Jay can do, but also give you some really actionable tips. So anyway, I'm going to be there in Las Vegas. I hope to see you there as well. We always learn a ton from our audience. So as I said, we're going to get to live optimization in just a minute. We've got our first live optimization up there. But first, I want to ask John a few questions. So this one comes from a #SherpaWebinar on Twitter. At Petros Peter asked, how do you feel about more than one click-through but to the same location? That was asked by @Mark0157 on #SherpaWebinar. Says, how do you feel about more than one click-through but to the same location?
Well, you've got to look at that from the mind of the customer, right? So how do they see it? Do they see, do they quickly, when they open up their email, do they understand what they see, where are they at, what can they do here, and why should they do it? And part of answering those three questions is to be able to see that next step. Now, if you're presenting multiple points to to the same location, and they all look like different places to go, then you've got a problem. But if you position those links or those click-through kind of opportunities in a way that doesn't distract them from getting the micro-conversion message point by point, then you actually may not be in a bad place, because even in landing page optimization and web page optimization, sometimes you're going to have a customer group that just quick bullets and go. But again, how does it look? Does it look equally weighted? Does it confuse them? Does it cause friction in their mind? So it's relative. I can't give you a rule for that, but I can give you a principle, which is if it looks like two different things, if it looks equally weighted, if it causes them confusion on where to go next, then avoid it.
Yeah, so one thing you might want to test if you're interested in sending multiple links to the same location. We've seen, you have your main call to action. Right. If you write a letter, you can have a PS where you have an extra incentive. After you've communicated that full value, here's why you want to click, the PS just has an extra incentive, an extra reason to take that click if you haven't sold them with the call to action.
Right.
We have another question here from #SherpaWebinar. This is @LindsayGaripi, and she asks, do the same errors apply to a paid subscription email?
Well, when you say paid subscription email, Dan, what do you
I can't speak for Lindsay, but I'm guessing that people are actually paying to subscribe to her list. So I would think on the upside, they're much more motivated to actually read the email.
Right. So just because they're giving you money doesn't mean that they're going to close. Doesn't mean that they're not going to close their account. It's up to you to not only initiate the relationship like you have, but to nurture it and to retain it. And part of retaining that is delivering continued value. So just because they're paying money does not mean that you can do whatever you want. Just because they're paying doesn't mean that you can rant. You've got to pay attention to the things that are important to them, or they'll find a really quick reason to stop paying, or when things get hard, they'll take a look at what you're delivering and say, what value am I getting out of that? And the same goes from the micro-conversions, because if your emails that you're sending, and you're constantly sending them to a paid subscription, but it's like, what is it that what am I supposed to do, or why did they send this, or what's the point? It's like a bank account. You take too many withdrawals, and then you're in the negative, and they're gone. And it's very much like a relationship. A relationship is built over time through multiple deposits and withdrawals. I've heard that analogy from one of the books that I've had to read for my micro-conversions, and it's very much the same when you are actually having a paid subscriber. Are you going to continue to make deposits with great relevant content, keeping in mind a conversation, or are you going to make withdrawals? Because eventually, when you make too many withdrawals, you're going to lose somebody from your list and from your credit card or whatnot. Does that help?
I think that's very helpful. I want to ask, it's 1:46 now. We've already thanked our sponsor. We have 14 more minutes, and we're going to apply it exclusively to optimizing your emails. And again, this will give you test ideas even if we're not talking about your emails. Please use the Q&A function or use a #SherpaWebinar. Let us know, are we going too fast or too slow for you? Help us. It's very difficult with webinars. We can't actually see the audience, so help us know, should we slow down, should we speed up? What works better for you? But while you do that, while I'm looking for that feedback, I want to tell you a little bit about live optimization. If you're not familiar about live optimization, I have 2 caveats. Please just work with me on these. One, we're gonna be probably a little harsh on these emails, not because it's anything against the marketer. Every marketer who's doing this, they put in a lot of work, and it's probably better than it was before. So we're only going to be harsh because we want to give you ideas to help improve it. So a lot of times we focus more on what you can change than what's working right. The second thing I'm going to warn you about is we only have a limited amount of information. So for example, for this live optimization, we have the information you see here that someone submitted. So a lot of times we'll make a suggestion, and then sometimes we hear back from a marketer, but hey, there's this other factor, that other factor. At our email summit, we're going to have these one-on-one sessions. I believe they're 30 minutes where you can sit down with an optimizer like John. You can tell him each and every factor, and he'll give you test ideas. Unfortunately, we can't do that for a webinar. So, if we say something that might not be correct because there's some other factor and we're optimizing your email, please don't be offended. Just know, given the assumptions we have, just given this information we're provided, we're just trying to provide the audience with the best options they can do. So let's take a look at this first optimization. The primary objective is call in and sign up for dish service. The target audience is homepage opt-ins, and the value proposition submitted is a $50 gift card. Let me first say, a $50 gift card is not a value proposition. So, and then we don't mean that really, no. That's an incentive, and let me tell you what I mean. So, for example, if someone told me you could get a $50 gift card for a brown Barbalut suit, I have no idea what a brown Barbalut suit is. I don't understand that value already, so that $50 gift card is meaningless. But if I could get a $50 gift card for, I'll use Pearl Jam as an analogy. I understand the value proposition of Pearl Jam. That value has been communicated to me. That $50 gift card resonates. So I just want to warn everybody, if they see that next to value proposition submitted, that is not, in fact, value proposition. But let's take I'm going to take one comment on the email, and I want to hear what John has to say. We're going to take a little closer look. So basically, people, looks like they signed in somewhere, perhaps on the home page for this list, and now they're getting this email, and it says, thank you for signing up. There's a gift card, and to claim your free gift card. I think the challenge is we forget that sometimes when people sign up for our list, they don't remember. They're not really excited 2 days later when they get that email. They could have forgotten that they signed up for it. So the thank you for signing up is nice, but when you're sending that first email, you have to communicate a lot more value and remind them why they signed up and what they were doing. As when I see this whole email, when I first get it, if I just got it in my inbox, I might think it's spam. I might not think I actually signed up. I might just think it's an offer. So you might want to communicate, hey, you came to our homepage, you were interested in a $50 gift card, here it is now, and for being on our list, you're going to get insiders look at television shows or these great deals or something else like that. What do you think, John?
Well, yeah, we've got a problem of assumed value here because we assume that that they're going to want this $50 gift card no matter what, when really I look at that and I say, okay, so what do you mean? What are you going to do to me for that $50 gift card? How are you going to torture me later through calls and emails and how many steps do I have to do and how many offers do I have to complete in order to get that $50 gift card? Right away, I feel apprehensive towards the email because the value is assumed through the incentive when really there's no value at all. In fact, there's more apprehension than there is value, and that's the first thing that you need to fix. And Dan made a great point that you could fix that apprehension simply by having a conversation with the customer. Hi, we noticed that you signed up for this, not too long ago. We're really excited. We've got a great offer. We think we can really do you well. And in addition to this value, we'd like to encourage you to try us out with our gift of a $50 gift card. Call to learn more. Instead, you have order now, call today. We're assuming that the $50 gift card is going to mean they're going to sign up, they're going to do everything. And this is for Dish Network, right? So to claim your card, you're going to have to change your cable or change the way that you do things now, and hopefully you'll get the card. There's just so much involved with that call to action. What about learn more about this incentive, or call to find out how much you could save and we'll give you this or whatnot. Give them a step that makes sense. Do not ask them to marry you again at the first date, and especially if all they've done is opted in for special offers on a home page.
Yeah, actually, this is great. Clayton submitted it, and he wants us to clarify the $50 gift card promo is the messaging on the actual opt-in. And that is helpful, and it does tie in better, but you also have to keep in mind, Clayton, that an email like this might look spammy. So thank you for signing up, I don't think is enough. I think you have to be a little clearer and say, hey, specifically, you signed up recently for this offer. Here is your gift card, and this is the value we're going to continue delivering. So, again, Clayton, we don't want to be too harsh, but we do want to keep in mind that as marketers, sometimes we forget, hey, we put this thing here, we put that thing there, people are going to get it.
They ask for it, why not give it to them?
Yeah, and I know. When I test my email forms, I go in there, I go to the form, I test it, and right away I go to my email and I see it. And it makes sense to me, right? Because those are my email forms, I test it right away. But the person that signed up, when I'm actually a customer signing up for something, sometimes I sign up and it's an unimportant email. I might not open it for a day or 2 or 5, or I might just open it on my phone and be caught, standing on the side of the road and not, remember what it is. So you have to remember, you have to over-communicate when it comes to email. Even though it might seem logical if it was done immediately, since that email follow-up's not always done immediately, you really, really have to over-communicate.
One thing you have to keep in mind, too, with incentives like this, especially if they opt in for the $50 gift card, is that they understand that there's going to be a price to pay for it. And so they're probably opting in out of curiosity, not out of a motivation to act. And so if you were to create an email with that assumption in mind, I would be interested to see what kind of response you would get.
That's an excellent point. However, if there is no cost for that $50 gift card, my email is editor@mechlabs.com.
Yeah, John.Powell.
You can sign me up, and I'd be glad to take it. John, were there any other thoughts on this specific live optimization? There's the bottom of it, or did you want to move on?
No, I think we're ready to move on to the next.
Okay, so the next one, the primary objective is to drive webinar registration for new products. The target audience is clinical operations and IT executives, and the value proposition submitted, reduced time and cost of clinical trial management. Here, John, I'm going to zoom in here to the top of it, and you can take it away.
Oh, my goodness. Remember what I said about content being king. There's got to be an understanding of what I'm going to get, and right away, it's trial exchange. Be the first to see our new product. You're so privileged. There's an issue of assumed value right here. We need to understand what it is about this webinar that drove us to create it. What was it that the customers loved so much about our content that made us say, hey, let's do a webinar so we can give it to more people? That's the kind of value that needs to be in the headline, in the subject line, in the very first sentence, because we need to help them understand that this is an email worth paying attention to before we ask them to pay attention to the webinar. The next thing I want to say is, I see these pencils in the bottom right-hand corner, and after staring at them a little bit harder, it says register now, but I also seem to see the same kind of font and style and structure for Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. Even if I wanted to register, I'd have a hard time figuring out which one to click on. And then, I've got 2 different times, September 18th, but, I can't understand. I have to look at multiple things. I don't even know where to go next, and apart from that, the value is assumed. So all of the it looks like we've got all of the 3 errors on this particular email, and if all you did was simply shorten the email and say, we know you're interested in this topic, we're going to be talking about it, are you interested? I would love to, I'd be very interested to see the response of that, or maybe to give a little bit more background about the speaker then, or tell me why the speaker is relevant. But I need more relevance. I need more reason to go past that headline.
Now I'm going to jump ahead here, John. Hopefully I'll be able to find my way back. But this is one, a live op we have more towards the end of the deck. Let's see, I'm trying to click on it and it's not. There we go. And I just want to talk about this one because this is also webinar 1. And I was really impressed with how they communicated value. I want to hear what you thought. The primary objective was to download a publication highlighting PricewaterhouseCoopers' expertise. The target audience is deal professionals. The value proposition submitted insights to improve daily deal ROI. Or deal ROI. Sorry, this isn't a daily deal site. This is more of people who do, I guess, mergers and acquisition. So this isn't specifically a webinar, but it's pretty much the same thing. They're selling content. And look at that. Look at that headline. Assessing deal value, uncovering blind spots in deal valuations. I have no idea about M&A. I don't do it every day. I want to read that. I want to know what are the blind spots in deal valuations. And then we just go, I'm going to ask you a second. I want to go to the next slide where it shows the bottom of the email. And they have this neat graph here where they're actually showing some of the blind spots that you have to watch out for. Oh, whoops, there it is. It's very cool. They have this graph and they're saying, hey, this is the risk of overpayment, the opportunity for excess return. I mean, talk about communicating the value of what you're going to get after you click on the email.
The one thing that this email does well is it gets right to the point that the customer cares about, which is the content that they want to read about. And, you drive me successfully into the first paragraph. You start to lose me with all that text, but then I get to that graphic and I'm back. So, if I were to look at this, I would say great job on establishing that connection, great job on capturing that attention. Get to the fun a lot quicker. Do you really need all of those bullet points, or do you just need a couple of points, a graph, and an invitation to read the full article or to register for the clinic? You have to keep in mind that curiosity is a powerful thing, especially in content marketing. And if you can get to the right points of value and use that as a driver to get that click, you're going to be better off in getting registrations farther down the line. And I've seen that in multiple email tests. I actually talked about one the other day on another kind of dry run presentation. So, but great job in capturing that attention.
Actually, we got 3 more minutes. Let's take a look at the next one really quick. Maybe we can get a few testing tips from you, John. Direct 365. The primary objective is lead generation and cross-selling. The target audience is current Direct 365 customers from any service, and the value proposition submitted 2 weeks free servicing when a contract is taken out. Getting out of the value proposition, but we'll go to it right now. John, why don't you tell us about some of the some test ideas you can give us for this one?
So with this one, you've got a customer. You've got a relationship. Why not talk to them as if you have a relationship? It's kind of like it's like I've got this friend, and then they see me in the office, and I just kind of walk by them, or I kind of give them the, this fake kind of expression, hey, how's it going, or I only come to them when I want something, right? If you were to approach this entirely different, come with the personal insight, you've got their name, you've got the service that they have, and you're genuinely interested in their well-being, why don't you start the conversation that way? Do you really need all those graphics, or do you just need a powerful introductory conversation? Be like, Dear John Doe, we're really pleased that you've been a customer with us for X number of years, or you've been doing this stuff. We've got this great offer just for customers only that you should look into considering. It's for floor mats. We do these things. These things can, click here to learn more. That's it. Do you really need all those graphics? We assume that we've got to go above and beyond, give them the glitz and the glamour, when sometimes a 1990s style email is about all that you need in a good relationship.
That's all right. Let's see. I think we have 2 more minutes. We can maybe go on to one more. Cuddle tunes. Now that you're expecting father, you might be interested in cuddle tunes. The primary objective is to inform subscribers about an Easter sale. The target audience is families, and the value proposition submitted price, customization, and providing comfort. So talk to us about cuddle tunes.
Well, when it comes to products like this, I look at the product, I look at the price, and I either run or I decide if I want to consider. And right now, you're talking about a special, but you're not actually telling me what the special is. You're giving me a price. I don't know what the real price is. I don't know how to judge its value. I don't know if it's normally $100, and I don't know why it would normally be $100. I think there's like, is there like a music thing built into the bear, or you know, or does it, you know, can you program it to say, you know, funny things? But that's the thing. The first thing, I mean, if you're using incentive or using a special to get my attention, then get to the special. That's the problem. You don't even, you say now only, but what was it? Help me understand the relative value of that special. And then, you know, what's more important? Is it somebody holding the bear, or is it showing all the different cool things you can do with the bear? It's figuring out what it is that your customer loves most about the bear, and then highlighting that, because maybe it is them just cuddling it. But there are a lot of bears that you can cuddle for $5. Okay, so, you know, help me understand why this bear is worth more time for my kid than some other one, and that's where I would really focus, as opposed to kind of this very general approach and not even helping me understand what the incentive is. Yeah,
and so thank you to Cuddle Tunes for submitting. We don't mean to be harsh, but you have to realize this is how the customer is going to judge it. You know, they just look at it and they don't know all the hard work you put into it. It's probably, you know, a very great product for kids. So I want to thank you, everyone, for listening. Unfortunately, we've hit 2 o'clock and we are all out of time, but thanks for listening to our MarketingSherpa webinar, and you can learn a lot more about email marketing and several other marketing topics at MarketingSherpa.com. Thanks a lot.